is created. So what we'll do is we'll try to create a maintenance generator for this one. Okay. So as we discussed the last time that how to maintain the entries and delete the entries and see the table contents here. Okay. So for that, so if you want to use this table content create entries, for that you have to create a table maintenance generator. Okay, and the function group you can give the same name as zval1. And what is this maintenance type? One step and two step. So if I put one step, then in the same screen you will be able to create the record and save it and display it. But for two step, there will be two screens which will be created. One is for the display, another one is for the creation of the screen. So let's see the difference here. And what you can do is, like, whenever there is one step, the overview screen will only be populated, but for two step, two screens will be populated. Okay. So I will just find a screen number here, propose a screen number. If I give, then it gives a overview screen number as 1. Now I will try to create this inside this package. Okay, so this one is this maintenance generator which is trying to create it. So our maintenance generator is created now. Let's see. Either you can go from here, table maintenance generator, create entries. It will take you to that SM30 screen.
You just clicked on the table contents?
No, I create on the create entries. Either you can go via that or you can go via this SM30.
Okay.
Okay, so in this one also you can maintain the records. It's the same thing. Okay, so as of now, let's put this, like if I want to create new entries. So if you can see this overview screen. Okay, this is the overview screen. So if I want to, if I have that single screen, one step, then in the single screen itself, you can create your records. Say for example, the customer number is 100, name is Subhashish, arrival city is Bangalore, company code is again 10 or A010 or something like that we can give, A01. And is there anything else? No. So save it. Now another record I will create, 101, Srikanth, Chennai, and A02. Okay. So if I save it now, what happens, like if you go to this table contents and display it, so you will come to see your this screen where you execute that, and then when you execute it you can see these two records. Okay, so this is how we create the table maintenance generator. Any doubt in this? And again, if I try to create it in a, like, you know, two step, so you can see the difference now. If say for example I'll give you a two step. Okay, let's try to see. It will probably created, and when you propose it, it will. So if can you see this? But ideally, what happens is in a single step, you will see one screen where you will be able to maintain the record and display the record. And for two step, you will be able to see the overview screen, and this single screen will come whenever you try to maintain any record. So say for example 103 I will put it, and so 103, then I will give Babu, arrival city say Pune, and company code is A03. So if you save it, now if you go back, so this record is created. Now if I go to the table contents and display, it will display the 3 records. Any doubt? So you got the difference between the single step and the two step, right? And also there are a lot of constant tables which will be created for your projects. At that time, you need to maintain the maintenance screen. So either you can go for the single step or you can go for the two step. Okay.
But
Any doubt?
I mean, in the content would be the same, right? The structural view will be the same, right? For both of them.
Yeah. You can see, right? I showed you, right?
Yeah.
The view is same.
Yeah. Only the creation. I mean, I could see that there's a display change for both of. There's a difference between both
Yes.
of them while we select.
So for the single step, only one single screen will be created where you will maintain and display the records. And for the two step, the display record will be one screen and the create record will be another screen. That's the difference.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Got it.
Then after that, suppose like I have this primary key which is there, Kunnar. Okay. So as I was telling you about let me open the, this index, right? So what do you mean by index? You can use this index to speed up the searching of a table for the data records that satisfy certain search criteria. Basically, we have two types of index. One is the primary index. The primary index is a unique index which is constructed of the key fields of the primary key. So in this case, Kunnar is our primary key. So that becomes our primary index. Mostly whenever we try to fetch any records or anything, we will use this primary key. But sometimes what happens is some secondary indexes can also be created alongside the primary index defined using the primary key. Both unique and non-unique secondary indexes also can be created for a database table. So creating secondary indexes also improve the performance of a database read that evaluate the indexes of a database table. So for example, my table has this following fields, right? Kunnar, name, city, BU, KRS, and few other fields also will be there in the real time. So if I often need to do a query using this city and BU KRS, okay, city and BU KRS will not come into the picture, but something called as the customer number or the material number if there are other fields as well. And if I need to do the query based on this field, other than the Kunnar, if I'll have other fields, and based on that I need to do a query, I have to create an index with those two fields. Okay. And every time whenever I do a select, I will use this index. Sometimes in the secondary index, you can use using percent hints oracle. But mostly what happens is whenever you try to create an secondary index, you can also use this select query using where. Okay. And what way, so if your mind you will be thinking like in what way does it improve the performance, because we have already a primary key. So creating a secondary index also, how it increases the performance. It's like, just you think about it, we have one primary key field through which we were fetching the records. Now for some of the requirement we are trying to use, for example, the city and BUKRS most of the time. So it will also help you accessing the data without the primary key. That is how it improves the performance. Okay. Now, like if I have to list all the primary keys first and then the field for which I'm creating the secondary index. So how it will work? when you create a secondary index, you do not have to specify the primary key in the index. That will defeat the purpose itself. Just the fields that whatever you want to access, for that you are creating the secondary key. Okay. And yeah, so let's try to create one. Hello. Yes. Let's try to create one index here. Suppose I will try to create on this name city combination. Okay, and view KRS combination. Do is already there is an index on the company code. Rather, I will try to create another index, secondary index on the city and the name. So you can give like the name as Z02. Okay, secondary index on name and city. Field name, if you choose it, you can give it here, name and city. So this way you activate it. So your secondary index is already created on the name and city. Okay. So tomorrow, whenever you try to record, retrieve the records, and based on the name and the city, based on that, you can use this particular Z02 index and you can retrieve your records. Okay. So this is how
So
the
in that case, we'll be retrieving only the details of name and city. So we'll be having only the details of only those two fields in
no,
that
no,
table.
no, not the details of the two fields. So when we go to the programming, right? So you will be using the select query. Just think about your C programming or any SQL query. So what happens is you use select this field from this table into this table where condition you put it, right? So
Right.
when you put where condition, there we mostly use our primary key. Okay. And also in the joining tables or for all entries, there are other things where you will be using for the retrieval of the records. There also you can use this primary key. But here, instead of the primary key, if you want the to fetch the record based on the name and the city, then in that case I have created a secondary index and you can use this particular secondary index in your case. So it's not, it will fetch you all the records, but based on the name and the city. That's the
Okay.
difference.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So after that, we'll move on to the next topic. And also, I remember I told you about this value table right here. So if you see this value table is there, right? So, okay. In SAP ABAP, both the value tables and the check table are used to maintain the domain values for the fields in the data dictionary. So suppose you have this Kunnar, right? You can also create fixed value for that. There will be some fields, for example, in the name. Okay. Now in the name, let me show you. So I have used a standard name. Okay. Here. Now I have already created the index, but say for example I want to change this name to Z name 1 and I want to show you the oh, it's already there, Z name 1. Okay, fine. Whoever has created, okay, he has not created any this thing domain. Let's see if it is there or not. It's also there. Okay, let's take it like Z name underscore test. There is no domain here. So I will just say test data element. and I created a zname underscore test domain as well. Okay, but before that, I'll give this as name 10, 15 name. Okay, also name. So I create a domain. Character 40. And here also the 40 length is there. In the value range, I will just give the name as only. So whenever you just try to find the values for this name, only these names should come. One is Subhashish, Shrikant, Babu, Ankita, like this. Okay, you can use the fixed values as well here in the domain. So now I activated, let's activate this thing. So I activated everything now. Let's execute it. Let's see what is happening here. Okay. So when you come here, right, you'll be able to see only these 4 names. Okay. If suppose you would have created the standard field, whatever values present in that particular system, so those values will be reflected here. But since I have given here the fixed values, that's why those fixed values are coming. So domain is also used to create the fixed values. Now, what I was trying to explain to you is regarding the value table and the check table. So in SAP ABAP, both value tables and check tables are used to maintain the domain values. Sometimes when you don't use the value range, so whatever value table you would have given, from that the values will come. But there is a small difference between these two. So a check table is a table that contains the allowed values for a field in a table or structure. It is basically used to enforce the data integrity by validating the data entered into the field. For example, if a field is defined as a domain with the check table, the system will allow only those values that exist in the check table to be entered into the field. For example, let's consider a field region. Okay, in the customer table, you have a field called as region. Now this region can be defined with a domain called as Z region. That is a check table Z region underscore check. Now this region underscore check table will contain a list of valid region codes such as 01 for North America, or 02 for Europe, 03 for Asia, etc. So when that user enters a value for the region field, the system will check if the entered value exists in that region check or not. Okay, so that check table is just used to validate the values which you are entering. But when we use this value table, what happens is a value table is a table that contains all the possible values for the domain. It is used to provide a list of valid values for a field to the user. Okay, but here the system will not validate whether that values are present in KNA1 or not. You can give other than whatever values are there in this KNA1. For example, let's consider a field called as country. Okay, now I told you about the region. So the basic difference, if you could understand, in the region we entered 01 for North America, 02 for Europe, and 03 for Asia. So the user will not be able to input any other value other than this North America, Europe, and Asia. Okay, it will throw an error. But in case of the value table, say for example, if we consider a field called as country, and this country will have a value table called as Z country value. Now this country value table will contain a list of all the valid country codes. When a user enters a value for the country field, the system will display all the list of values from the country value table. Okay. However, the user can also enter a value that doesn't exist in the country value table. Okay, and the system will not display any error message. You got my point, right? What is the difference between the value table and the check table? So check table will be just used to validate the data entered into a field, while a value table is used to provide a list of valid values for a field. Okay, it is just used to define the valid values, and the check table will be only used to, like, validate the values entered into the field. Okay, so that is the difference between a check table and a value table. Generally in your interviews and all, they will ask you this question: what is the difference between the value table and the check table? So this is all about this table. Now if I want to create a, let's see what is
Is
the
there any
next
way
topic.
we can see the check table?
See, uh, like if you see this, as of now I have not created a custom check table, but if you see this is the value table, and if you try to give any other check table also, you can give. Let's suppose we will do it here as a, I think. So can you see this check table?
Yes.
We covered the index. Buffering we covered yesterday. Foreign key also we have covered it. So the table types, there are like four types of table. One is the transparent table, and the other one is your cluster table, pool table, and the internal table, right? So in your transparent table, whatever like you are creating, whatever we are creating generally is the transparent table, and internal table is what we created in our programs. So whenever the internal table will be of type mostly this transparent table or the standard tables. So whatever we create it in our programs, we will call it as an internal table. BSEG is actually a cluster table. Uh, So whenever this pool tables, so what is the basic difference between the pool table and the cluster table are? Pool table are generally are logical tables that must be assigned to a table pool. So whenever you try to create ALV report, okay, at that time one pool table is used called as SLIS, SLIS, through which we will be using the ALV features. Okay, and cluster table are the logical tables that are assigned to a table cluster. And you will come across this cluster table, transparent table, and the pool table. Transparent table is simple, what we are creating. And if I try to tell you about the features of a cluster table, these cluster tables will not be maintained directly by the database tools. The usage of the cluster table are easier, but they are not created separately. Like database views, joint, and append statements are not used in this cluster table. You cannot use any append statement or anything in this cluster table. Okay. So it's a huge table, and generally we avoid using this BSEC table in our select query. Wherever the BSEC table is used, we generally it takes a lot of time to process the records. And the pool table, similarly, this data from the tables are stored together in a table pool. So which I said you, like SLIS, SLIS. So that one will come as a pool table.
Current. Which table we use frequently during
Transparent tables. We
mostly
generally use these
transparent?
kind of tables, whatever we are using, right? Those are
Right.
called as the transparent tables.
Right.
Okay, which is used to store either the master data or the transactional level of data. So those we use it. And then let's move on to the structures creation. Okay. Tables are used to create multiple records, but when we go for a structure is similar to a table, like the look and feel will be same, but it will only be able to create like only be able to hold a single value at one point at runtime. It will not be able to create like store any records permanently, unlike table. You try to, you would be thinking that when we have a table, why we are going for a structure. But in standard programs and many other scenarios, you will come across lot of requirements where you will be like, going for a structure. G structure underscore test, and we can try to create a structure here. So this is a structure. We can create the same thing. Okay, component hips QNNR. Similarly, we will create a name one. UKRS. Announcement category. It will have the same announcement category like what we displayed yesterday. You can maintain, either you can maintain or you don't need to maintain. Okay, so it is just a warning. Unless it is an error, we are good. Okay, so this is how the structure is created. Now you can see that we are not able to display, we are not able to execute that particular structure, this structure. Okay, we are just able to see this structure. Now this structure, you can use it in your program. Okay, and you can just assign single value. It can hold only single value for that particular row at the runtime. Otherwise, it will not be able to store records permanently. So that is the difference between a table and a store.
Can you repeat that again, the difference?
Yeah, the difference is tables will be able to hold the records permanently. For example, we created some values here, right? So if I display it, I can see the values here. Correct? These are able to hold the records, and these records are permanent. You can delete it, but unless you delete it, you can do edit, delete, modify also, but it is able to hold the records. But in case of a structure, see, if you display it, you will not be able to hold any values here. Only in the runtime we will be able to hold it. So yesterday, if you remember, I did one program. So I think this one, right? So I showed you that this is of type this structure. So this is also a structure, correct? It has these many fields. Like during the runtime only, this value was coming. I showed you in the debugger, right? Do you want me
Yes,
to?
yes.
I will tell you about the debugger session going forward. Okay, but just try to understand how it looks like. I'm just showing you once again. So so this is a variable which is of type data element. This is a variable which is of type the table field. And this is that structure thing which I was telling. So if you assign this structure type of this standard structure, how it looks like. If you see the variable, it has just a single placeholder. Then it will just hold a single value. But in case of a structure, inside the structure, there are so many fields. Okay. Now you are able to recall it. So if I give here ls structure car name and just execute it, like give F5, okay, it assigns that car name value to here. Similarly, you can assign rest of the other things as well. And this structure is only, you are able to see this value only during the runtime of this particular program. Once you come out of this particular program, you will not have that value. For that particular session, you will be able to see. When I execute it, you can see that this is the output. Now clear?
Yes.
Or still you have doubt?
No, I got it.